You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be talking about staying positive. Oh, we've all been there, right? We just feel gobbled up by life's commitments and the really long and hard days, and sometimes it's difficult to stay positive and find that motivation. Well, today is the day to focus on that. We'd like to invite you to call in at 800-333-0001 if you are facing a challenge and you just want some inspiration or some direction on how to overcome that. I'll be standing by taking your calls. Also, in our next segment, we're going to be joined by Michael Schnagel. His family, when he was younger, at 7 years old, had to escape the Nazi territories in Europe and eventually come to New York City. But then years later, he became one of the longest-standing deans at Harvard. How did he do that? And we'll be hearing his story. And if you need some more support on today's topic, I want you to reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. It's really important that we know that beyond today's show that you are staying positive, and on those hard days that you can contact us at Living Full Out and we can give you that extra boost. Now, I'm getting word from our producer that we do have a caller on the line. We're going to go say hello to them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, thank you for calling. Yes.
How do you deal with roommates and coworkers that you can't get along with?
Wow, that is a good question. You can't just quit, right? And you can't just move out. Can you tell me where is the biggest pain right now? Is it a roommate or is it a coworker?
It's a coworker.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is it that coworker is doing that just gets under your skin or makes you feel bad?
It's not really anything that they do. It's just that we don't necessarily get along, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And sometimes both people think they're right and the other person's wrong. So you're going to want to find some common ground. Unless you see yourself moving to a different job anytime soon, or you see that person, moving on elsewhere, you got to find that compromise. And I truly believe that you got to be the hero. You want to take that higher road. And sometimes life will give us those people in our path because it's trying to teach us something. It wants us to evolve, to grow. So rather than looking at this person as an obstacle, as a frustration in your life, look at it as an opportunity for you to expand as a person. And so when you guys don't get along, is it that you have different points of view? Or is it that that person, is combative? Or what's the deal?
It's just that we don't get along, And it makes sense just to take the higher ground, what you're saying.
Now, do you think you can do that?
It's hard. Yeah. It just will be difficult, but...
Well, so what I want you to do... Yeah, so what I want you to do is kind of keep it like a little secret inside yourself, right? When you know that you're taking that higher road, when you know that you're maybe biting your tongue when you'd really like to tell them how you really feel, look at it like a little secret inside. Okay, I'm the one growing here. I'm going to let this person have this moment. You know what? I know that they're not right, but I'm going to let them take it because you want them to grow too, but at the same time, you can't change somebody. You can't convince them of something. If they're convicted in their truth, there's no way of changing that. You can try, but you might get exhausted in the process. So focus the attention on yourself. When they say something to you that irritates you, when they do something that you just know is wrong and your way is better, you just kind of got to keep that within yourself and say, this is an opportunity for me to take that higher road, for me to maybe try to nurture them, try to coach them. If they don't listen, I tried. You know what I mean? That's really all you can do. And maybe at some point, set your sights on a different job that has coworkers that you do enjoy. Okay? But otherwise, we'll be thinking of you and wishing you all the best. But just stay positive if you can. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hang in there. Okay, thank you for calling in. And so the thing is, it's so interesting that she asked that question, right, with today's topic, because it's hard to stay positive when you're dealing with someone that's so difficult. So I'm really glad that she touched on that point. Now, I'm getting word from our producer that we have another caller on the line. I'm going to go say hello to them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, good morning, Nancy. My name is Richard.
Well, hi, Richard. Thank you for calling in. How can we help you today?
Well, I had a question. So right now, I'm going to school right now full-time, but I also have a part-time job right now. And I was just wondering, is this part-time job really for me? I'm working retail, but I really don't see any real true benefits it being part of my major. And I feel like I could be using this part-time job to maybe be studying or having leisure time. I prefer looking on the bright side of things, but I would love to have some insight as to whether this job is really right for me. And right now, as of now, tuition isn't really much of an issue right now for me. Everything's kind of being paid for with my scholarships I'm blessed with right now. I was just wondering what I should do.
Well, it's interesting, and I want you to listen to this show back, okay, because we always have the show up on our website for 1 week until our next show. And the thing is I want you to hear back your question to me. And the reason why is because the answer is actually already inside you. And sometimes it's hard because when we're in a situation, we can't see the whole picture because we're emotionally involved, we're committed to it. And it already sounds like the answer's there. You're just asking for someone to say it's okay. It's okay to quit that job. And the thing is I get that sometimes it's hard because we don't want to quit. We don't want to give up on a commitment. It feels like sometimes we failed or we're not giving, 110%. But if you don't need this job to pay bills, if tuition's paid for, if you know that your time could be better spent, then set it free. And the thing is that's how through life we kind of evolve and mature, is because we're able to start to assess, what relationships do we keep versus which ones do we let go of? Because there are going to be toxic relationships you're going to have to let go of over time. There's also going to be jobs that we're going to have to assess and say, is this serving me or do I need to let it go? And sometimes letting something go opens more doors because now your time is freed up. Your mind is freed up. Do you see that?
Yeah, I never looked at it that way. Yeah, I'm actually seeing it in a whole new light.
So the thing is I am telling you right here and now, quit that job. 2 weeks notice. Poof. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then think about what is possible. But when you do quit that job, whenever you let go of a relationship, whenever you do anything like that, do it with grace. And so you want to make sure that you don't leave them empty-handed because you're not that kind of person, right? Be always of integrity. But when you do that, you're going to be able to let go of that experience knowing that they're going to be okay. You gave them ample notice to find someone else. And there will always be somebody who wants to get into retail because maybe their dream is fashion. Maybe they're into sales. So you letting go of that opportunity releases it for somebody else to grab it, and that's their door that you've just opened. Do you see that?
Wow, yeah. I see that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Never seen it that way.
So by you quitting, you're giving someone else the gift of a job that wasn't available until you set it free. Okay. So, yay! Look at that. So we will be, wishing you all the best, and I'm so glad you called in, and it sounds like you got what you needed today in terms of that insight.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nancy. I think I will take that advice.
Perfect. Well, thank you for calling in. And I'm glad that that last caller touched on that, right? Because life is full of decisions. And we're talking today about staying positive And part of the reason why we get into a rut and we get frustrated is because we're hitting that brick wall over and over and over again. We're trying to make something work. We're putting a circle into a triangle peg, right? Release the insanity. It's time to decide what you need to let go of in order to set yourself free, in order to stay positive and live your life full out. Now, I want you to stay with us because in our next segment, we'll be joined by Michael Schnagel. Again, his story is just awesome. Going from running from Hitler's regime to the longest standing dean in Harvard. How did he do that? Stay with us. We're going to be coming right back after this break. I'm Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show, and it's all about staying positive. So think about where in your life you want to take that leap. Go after something that you've been longing to do and set the negativities free so that you can live your life full out. We'll be right back.
Hi, professional skateboarder Tony Hawk here with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck to remind you to get moving every day.
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
you'll have the energy to skate through anything.
Nice play on words, Doc.
That's how I roll, Bugs. So whether you like to work the half pipe,
now that's catching air,
kick the soccer ball around, or dance in your room,
just move it your way.
For an hour a day.
The way you like to move, as long as you're moving.
Carve out some time every day and get active. Because it's time to do a 180 on what you think exercise is.
Because it can be whatever you want it to be. So be a player.
Be a player.
Get up and play an hour a day, Doc. Check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov.
Head online to get tips on great ways to get moving every day.
At www.letsmove.gov. Let's hear that one more time, Doc. That's www.letsmove.gov. A message from the Ad Council and HHS.
Every day I wake up at 5 to give Dad his medicine. Every day I wake up at 5 to give Dad his medicine. At 6 I make his breakfast. Every day I wake up at 5 to give Dad his medicine. At 6 I make his breakfast. At 7 I shower. Every day I wake up
For
at
those
5.
caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm Sarah, and this is my story.
I'm Ellen, and this is my story.
One night, I was at a bar. I was having fun with my friends.
I
had one too many drinks.
I
got behind the wheel to go home.
I got a cab to go home.
All of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a squirrel ran across the road.
And all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a squirrel ran across the road.
It happened so quickly, I barely had time to react.
It happened so quickly, the cabbie barely had time to react.
I swerved.
The cab swerved.
I can't believe it. I hit a guy.
I cannot believe it. The cabbie just missed a guy.
I wish I took a cab.
Thank goodness I took a cab.
You have the choice to save a life. Don't drive buzzed. It's a decision you'll never regret. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
If you think depression is all in a person's head, you're right. It's a brain illness. And like other illnesses, it has symptoms. Depression can make those who suffer from it feel hopeless. It can even lead to suicide. Learn how to stop depression from taking another life. Call SAVE, Suicide Awareness Voices of Education, 1-888-511-SAVE, on the web at save.org.
I'm Alec Baldwin. Like any parent, I'm concerned about children's health. Many kids don't eat as they should and are at risk for long-term health problems like diabetes and heart disease. But here's good news. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and other low-fat vegetarian foods can protect our kids and keep the rest of the family healthy too. For a free booklet, call the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine at 1-877-685-KIDS or visit www.kidsgethealthy.org.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show, and today we're talking about staying positive and how do you have that focus when there's so many things around us that can distract us, can be burdens on our mind and our heart? Well, we brought you an inspirational guest today who really is no stranger to staying positive. I mean, he lives it, he eats it, he sleeps it. And so I really want to welcome Michael Schnagel to the show. He grew up having to run from Nazi-occupied territories in Europe to eventually getting to New York City, but then eventually going to Harvard in terms of becoming one of the longest standing deans. And in between, there's so many other experiences that we're going to try to do our best to get to, but there's so much to say. So I'd like to welcome Michael to the show.
Happy to be on the show, Nancy.
Well, you are a diamond in this world, truly. I mean, I feel like I meet a lot of people, but for you to have come across my path, I feel honored because you have really lived it. And I want to take our audience a little bit along your journey. And there's so much to say, so we're going to just hit the highlights. But, you grew up at 4 years old, running all around Europe with your family, trying to go from one zone to another and, watching your father have to, give himself over to work in a camp because obviously he was, at that point, all the men had to work in the camps, and around 7, you finally were able to leave Europe. But I want to talk about that time from 4 to 7, because I can only imagine how traumatic and stressful that was as a child. Can you share with us briefly about that time?
Well, I mean, my whole childhood got erased because of the trauma, so I had no opportunities really to get it back, because of the Holocaust and trying to flee Europe over a 3-year period and all the tension and the war, the outbreak of the war. So, the problem is I just survived that, but it's kind of a blank childhood for me.
Yeah. I must have been very difficult, being on one side of a
terrifying.
fence. Yeah.
But I do put in my memoirs, if my parents were separated, my father was in a camp, and my mother had a nervous breakdown, and I was locked in a one-room apartment with her for many months. So you can imagine the kind of stress I was under, as well as the kind of stress that my parents were under.
Now, it's interesting because years later, when you were writing your memoir, you tried to unlock the memories of that time. But what did therapists tell you as to why you cannot remember?
Well, as I went to, a series of psychiatrists and even volunteered to go to a hypnotherapist. And finally, nothing was working, and my psychiatrist wisely said to me, Michael, the reason that closet is locked is to protect you. There's no point in opening it because of all the horrors that you've locked away, and there's a reason for keeping it locked, and I accepted that.
Well, and actually, I think that was great advice. I mean, we're talking today about staying positive, and when we dig and dig and dig for negative answers, scary memories, that's not serving our ability to take, forward leaps into the future, right? To live a happy life. So I'm actually glad that therapist gave you that advice. Now, you were eventually able to reconnect with your dad, and your family was able to go to New York City, and I know your father's brother lived there.
Yes.
But you didn't know English, and your family didn't know English. So what did your parents end up doing for work?
Well, again, it was very traumatic when I was I was 7 years old and didn't speak any English, and they put me into public school. And I remember the first grade teacher said, you have to raise your hand if you want to be called upon. And one day I had to go to the bathroom, and I raised my hand, and she never called on me, and I wet my pants. So you can imagine how traumatic that was for a 7-year-old to be ashamed and to as wet his pants. So, it's just a question. But I ended up in 10 years going from first grade to graduating from high school by skipping and so on. But throughout my school career, I did fairly well in my classes, but things like conduct, I would usually get a very low mark or even a failing mark because I had serious adjustment problems.
Well, and for our audience that's listening today, because when kids are in a time of distress, and it might be parents that are divorcing, it might be various traumas that they grew up with, and that's what you held. You held on to anger and frustration. I mean, you didn't know English, and you were put in public school. Your mom's having a breakdown, and life was not as rosy as it was when you were 4, when your family was a unit and everybody was happy. What coping skills did you turn to as a child to get through that time?
They were survival skills, very basic. I would just withdraw into myself and try and keep distractions to a minimum and realize that in time this would pass. But I was also angry and assertive, and somehow had to deal with my anger management, and that took a while. It wasn't until later that I was able to control that. But it was even when I was a little kid, I remember when we were all I was 4 years old, and on Sundays my mother would put me in a sailor suit, and the family would go for a walk, and my parents and my brother walked on the sidewalk, and little Mikey walked in the street. And my mother said, Michael, come join us on the sidewalk. And I would sort of look at them and say, kein Platz, which in German meant no room. So you could see I was already a pretty rebellious little guy when I was 4 years old.
But you know what? You took that vigor and that spirit, and you actually did make it a positive in your life. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break. But when we come back, I want to kind of pick up on your story and share, the other chapters of your life that you went through. And I think just as Michael just shared that story about little Mikey and, kind of walking his own path when his family was on the sidewalk, in life, we can all be that way sometimes, we have to trust ourselves. We have to sometimes make mistakes and learn from them, and also take risk. And I know, Michael, you're going to talk about that as well down the line here. So I want everybody to stay with us. It's all about staying positive today so that we can live our lives full out. I am Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us, stay positive, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
There are many sounds in your day-to-day life. There are sounds that wake you up. Sounds that make you smile. Sounds that energize you. And sounds that help you relax. But there are some sounds that can alert you to danger and can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you information about severe weather events, Amber Alerts, or other emergencies in your area. With critical information from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know, wherever you are. For more information, visit ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey, but people in this town call me Maniac. They call me that because I'm the fastest runner in town. Just because everyone knows who I am doesn't mean I belong. I don't really belong anywhere. You see, I'm an orphan and I wander the streets just looking for a place that I can truly call home. My name is Maniac McGee and I'm all alone. Explore new worlds. Read my story in the novel Maniac McGee by Jerry Spinelli. For other great book ideas, visit your local library or log on to literacy.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
For the bare necessities.
The bare necessities of healthy living are easier than you think.
You better believe it.
And the food pyramid shows you the way. With just the right amount of exercise and the necessary grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, and meats and beans.
Just the bare necessities of life.
So eat right, be active, and have fun.
Yeah, man.
For your own path to a healthier you, visit mypyramid.gov.
This is really living.
This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Nancy Solari, host of the Living Full Out Show. I am excited to let you know that we are now associated with Alexa. If you have Alexa in your house and you didn't know that, go ahead and find Living Full Out because you can hear us anytime you want, and we're there for you to keep you motivated. Go to your app store because we're located there as well. Just look for the Living Full Out radio show. It's important to us that we put out really inspiring programming, but we want to make sure that you have it at your fingertips when you need us most. We never know when those challenges are going to come, when we're going to feel lonely and need that motivation. So just know that when you need us, we're here for you. Check out Alexa, the app stores, or go to livingfullout.com. Here's to you living full out.
What if I could tell you that a full-blown wildfire was going to occur tomorrow right where you live? Tell you exactly which neighborhoods it would engulf and how fast it would do it. The first thing you would do is talk with your loved ones and make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a wildfire will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you make a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait, communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we are talking about staying positive, and we are joined by our inspirational guest, Michael Schneegel, who had to flee with his family from Nazi-occupied regions in Europe, but then eventually got to New York, but then eventually became one of the longest-standing deans at Harvard. And there's so many great lessons to his story in between. So we are going to jump back into this interview and do our best to let Michael give us all of his wisdom. So, Michael, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be back, Nancy.
Yes, and you know, I had a conversation with you prior to today's interview, and one of the stories that you told me that really stood out was, you know, after your studies, you decided to go work on a farm. You didn't like the city, you wanted to kind of, you know, put your hands in the soil and just try something different. But you didn't love it so much. Can you share with us about that and that kind of, I guess, aha moment that you had?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Oh, so I wanted you to share with us about when you were working on the farm, when you decided to kind of make the transition. You just didn't love it.
A tenement in New York City. 4 of us living in a 3-room apartment. Living room, my parents lived in sofas. In the living room, my brother and I lived in the bedroom. We had no dining room, a little kitchen, and 1 bathroom. So it was pretty claustrophobic, and I hated New York. It was, kind of smelly, dirty, and I had the fantasy that if you hate New York, you'd be happy on a farm. So I worked on a farm before going to Cornell in the School of Agriculture, and I had to get up at 4 in the morning to bring in the cows to be milked, and it was a pretty Spartan existence, not what I had in mind. And one August day, it's very hot out, and I'm shoveling manure, and flies and mosquitoes are buzzing around me, and I have this existential moment of awareness, and I say, what the hell am I doing here? This isn't where I want to be. And I realized that a farmer's life was not for me, so I ended up changing eventually. But I had little choices, and after a year at Cornell School of Agriculture, I volunteered for the draft as a teenager. I was 18 and went into the Army and served in Korea.
Well, first of all, kudos to you for having that epiphany, because the thing is I give it to farmers, that 4 a.m. schedule, all that they do, but that's their passion. And I think in life you have to follow your passions, and for you it wasn't the farm, but I think it was smart, and we've all been there where we're like, what am I doing? Like, why am I in this relationship? Why am I in this job? And you made that change. And what I think is so interesting about your time in the military is that's where you got to meet so many different walks of life, and that's really where you grew as a man.
Well, keep in mind, I think I've been teaching college level for 60 years and, really enjoy students, but I would say most American students, when they go to college, are still very immature emotionally and really don't know what they want. And I think the Israelis have it right, where kids after high school, the boys go in the Army for 3 years and the women go for 2. And if we in the United States had something necessarily like an urban corps or, helping in the community to let people grow up, this is what the Army did for me. I had no sense of direction, no motivation, but when I came back from the Army with the GI Bill, I was transformed and motivated, and I ended up graduating from college, Phi Beta Kappa, whereas at Cornell I was a C student.
It really transformed you, that experience. And, your journey, again, there's so many pieces to this puzzle, but I want to jump now to Harvard. I mean, you have been there how many years now?
It's 50 years, half a century.
50 years. And your primary focus these days is on leadership, helping students to become better leaders. And when you look back at your life, like if you were to look back and talk to that 7-year-old boy who's still over in Europe dealing with all the, running from the Nazis and this and that, what would you tell that 7-year-old boy?
Well, the one thing I've learned while I came back to Harvard after teaching at Union College as an academic, and the job I got at Harvard was a new job to be a head of continuing education. And what I liked about it, the job was something I could define. Some years later, when I was invited to be a candidate for Dean of Harvard College, I said, no, I'm not interested. And the reason was that job defined you, and I felt I wanted to define a job. And I think that's an important lesson for people. If you can get something where you can show creativity, take initiative, that will engage you. That will make you much more motivated. On the other hand, if a job defines you, you sort of go through the motions, but it's not very exciting.
I agree 100%. And, we get letters all the time from people who kind of blame certain circumstances on why they're not where they are in life. I mean, you had every reason in the book to blame, you came to New York City, didn't speak English. Like, there's so many ways it could have gone in a negative direction for you. But you don't actually put up with victim talk, do you? What do you tell your students?
No, and I find anyone can easily embrace a victim script. But to do that is to decide to become a loser. If you're going to be a winner, you say, look, this is something I can overcome. This is something I will do better at. That is to take the initiative. That is what will define you. And I just have no sympathy with people who give up or say, it's not my fault, and just sort of fold their cards. You are given a hand in a game of cards. You play your hand as vigorously and as successfully as you can. You do not fold.
And that is very much living full out. I'm echoing your comments there. And I know for me, having mentors has been a great focus point for me over time. And I'm sure for many of your students, you've been their mentor. But who has been yours?
I'm sorry?
Who have been your mentors over the years?
Well, I mean, I've taught literature, but I now also am teaching leadership and decision making, having spent a lifetime doing just that. And I think you can learn a great deal by having a broad liberal arts education. The one thing I feel is very important. Nowadays, people have become too career-oriented. The whole drift towards STEM, science, technology, economics, mathematics. People don't study literature, history, philosophy, and so on, and they need that to get through life. I think it's a mistake to be so job and career-oriented that you neglect life in its fullest.
Yeah, because hearing those stories, that helps to shape us and guide us, and I understand that. And for our audience listening today, because you are all about leadership when working with your students, what words of wisdom do you have for us today for those who are trying to find their purpose? They might have a part-time job or a full-time job they're in, but they don't love it, or maybe they've just kind of lost their sense of self, and they're trying to find their way back. What would you say?
Well, I find the best kind of teaching, and I've done everything from freshmen to graduate students, is if you have a mixed classroom of adult educators. And I have had classes where I've had students in their teens and I've had students in their 80s. And the thing is, that kind of a mix is very stimulating to everyone involved. If you think of the average college class, everybody's in the same cohort. Everybody's either 18 or 19, and what are they worried about? They're not thinking about art or religion or something. They're worried about, will my pimples affect my going to the prom? Stuff like that. So I think education really has to be rethought, where people are motivated and you get as many points of view, and people aren't just learning formulae and stuff like that.
I agree 100%. I love that. In fact, I remember my sister, when she was in college, our grandfather at 70 decided to take a public relations class with her. And so they took it together. Right. She was 21 and he was in his 70s, and they were study partners. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I remember my wife taught first grade.
Well, and the thing is, Michael, is I could talk to you for hours, but I want to thank you so much for being on today's show, because honestly, you are just a gift, and we will be wishing you all the best, and you are such a positive light. And for everybody listening today, it is about living full out and finding that way to stay positive. In hearing Michael's story, we can see that he had to take a risk. He had to ante up. He had to keep going after that goal. And that's how he ended up being a dean at Harvard for 50 years and teaching and living his dream. So what is your dream? What do you want to achieve? And let's get you on that path so that you can be released from, toxic habits or, times that you failed. The past is in the past, and it's time to write your future. And just like Michael was saying, literature, writing, journaling, it's all important. So we're going to be coming right back after this, taking your calls, but I really want you to think about today, what are you going to do, one thing, to make yourself be more positive as you go through the day? We'll be right back after this break. It's all about living full out. I'm Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. Stay with us.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait, hold on. I just got a text.
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. So many comments on my comment. Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Mom, what? Huh? Pew, pew. What'd you say?
This weekend, unplug. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. It's against my religion. I'm giving my dog a bath. You can have pictures of that. Pressure gives me hives. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. Hold on, let me ask my mom. Sorry, my webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. Unfortunately, I just had my clothes surgically attached to my body. If they got out, I might never be president. I'm already naked, under my clothes. Not even if you were all three Jonas Brothers. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. The more you ask, the less I want to. You're not the boss of me. Nudity makes me vomit. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day.
Football
I want to be a
stadium.
bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
What?
What about our plan to win the lottery and start living? You know, travel the world on matching yachts, wear enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacation on the French Riviera, and then buy it.
You know we're never going to win the lottery, right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
To stay positive, you always want to remember to look ahead. Yes, there's going to be times that we fail, mistakes we make, burdens on our heart, but you want to look towards the light and think about what's to come. Who are the people in your life you're going to meet? What are the experiences you're going to have? Focus on those as you stay positive in living full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. Nancy is here as a guide to show you how to rise above obstacles and savor each moment. If you have a question, call in live at 800-333-0001. That's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I am Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out show. And today we've been talking about staying positive, but I want you all to know that I realize that sometimes it's easier said than done, right? Sometimes it's just like we feel like life is stacked against us. But just as our previous guest was saying, we have this victim script that we can turn to, or we can rewrite that script to be more positive. And trust me, being legally blind has come with some really hard challenges in my life. And it would have been really easy for me to just hunker down and say, you know what, since I can't see, I guess I'll just hang out, right? What could I possibly do? I can't see anything. But I decided not to do that. I had to have my little teeny pity party, which I did. And from time to time, trust me, I do have a good cry because losing sight, losing hearing, losing a loved one, anytime you have lost it, you're going to have a breakdown. But you want to rally from that, and you want to figure out, what is it that you can do to get yourself on a positive track. And I knew for myself that I would have to get resourceful. If I couldn't see, and the direction of my diagnosis, my retinitis pigmentosa, was blindness, well, then I needed to figure out a way to still be functional, to be independent despite that. I had to figure out low vision aids. And trust me, that came with a lot of headaches, a couple glasses of wine, but really long days, I will tell you, because it's not about taking a mouse and clicking on something. It's all about keystrokes and listening, and it took a long time to learn. I also realized that I had to get resourceful in finding ways to get around. I used to drive, but at one point I had to give up driving. And then what? I learned the bus system. I learned various forms of share rides. Even today we have Lyft and Uber, which I use all the time. And I share all of these examples with you because whatever it is that you're going through, you're going to need to dig deep. You're going to need to think about what are the resources, what are the people that you may need in your life so that you can live that dream or achieve that goal. And so when we consider staying positive, the other thing I want you to just think about is the way that you talk to yourself. Now, I'm going to raise my hand because I don't think anybody escapes having some form of negative self-talk, right? We've all had the moments of where we say, what am I doing? Or, oh, I'm so stupid. Or, why did I do that? Right? To call yourself out and put yourself down isn't going to get you to a positive place. In fact, it's just going to mess with you. It's going to make your mind fester. It's going to make your heart and soul feel bad because you feel like you let yourself down. The minute you find yourself slipping, have that 1 minute pity party. Literally look at your watch, say, you know what? I'm going to give myself 1 minute. I'm going to give myself 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to give myself 1 hour, 1 day. Cap it at a day, okay? And then you want to think about, okay, I'm going to turn the page. I'm going to write a new dialogue, a new script, and try to leap forward into the future. Try to envision, close your eyes, and think about what does achieving that goal look like? Are you smiling? What are you wearing? Who are you with? Are you getting an award? What does that paycheck look like? What babies or kids or family are you around? really hold that vision for your life close to your heart, because on the days that are hard, you need that vision to get you through. So then you take that vision and you couple it with positive self-talk, okay? Rather than the woulda, coulda, shouldas, you want to say to yourself, I will, I can, I'm going to. And you say those positive words considering that vision for your life that you have, that purpose that you want to attain. And when you take that vision for your life, when you take that positive self-talk, that's how you're going to lead yourself over to where you want to be in terms of living full out. Now, if you need support on today's topic, I really want to make sure you reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Also, if today has triggered something for you where you have a story that you'd like to share with our community, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Let us know, what was the tragedy, the crisis that you overcame? What disability are you dealing with, yet you're resilient and doing great things despite it? And we'd love to hear that story. Also, if you want to hear today's show again, go to livingfullout.com. All of our episodes are waiting there for you. You can also check us out on Alexa by just checking out Living Full Out Radio, or going to the App Store, whether you have an Android or iPhone, and searching Living Full Out Radio. That way we can help you stay motivated on the go. The entire Living Full Out family just really thanks you for listening today. We have Aaron and Rich and Raj and Riley and so many people that just want to make sure that you are living your truth, that you are standing up and embracing what it means to live full out. Know that I believe in you. I know that you're going to go on to do great things. Hang in there. Reach out to us if you need that support. And always know that you are worth it. And those dreams, those goals, they're just not fleeting thoughts. They're not fantasies. They can be real. You want to believe that in your core, in your mind, and beyond. Thank you so much for listening today. Here's to you living full out.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Here's to you, living full out.